Well, Mr. Moon, it's nice to meet you, she said, extending her hand in my direction, expecting a handshake. This girl seemed way too ditzy to be the leader of anything. Was this some sort of joke? Are they trying to play me? Maybe lure me into some sort of trap, aside from the one that they already lured me into. But if this crazy girl is the leader, which I am definitely questioning, I thought to myself, then this is also an opportunity. She didn't look that strong. She was just some ditzy girl. In fact, she looked younger than I was. She couldn't possibly be out of her 20s. Based on her frame, I'm easily strong enough to take her. This could be the chances I was looking for. All I have to do is pull her in fast enough. Hold her hostage, the same way they held Emily hostage. Bargain our way out. And all I had to do was start it with a handshake. It was the perfect opportunity to pull her in. These guys must not be very good at this, I thought, as I slowly began to extend my hand. And as I began to clasp it with hers, getting ready to make my move, that's when I noticed it. Her grip on my hand. It was like a steel vice. There she stood, holding my hand firmly, and I couldn't flinch it. She squeezed onto it so hard that the pain started to be registered even over the dulling that I had working. For a moment, I almost swear I felt a bit of a pop, like she had dislocated one of my fingers. And no matter how hard I tried to grip back, it didn't seem to have any effect on her at all. It was like squeezing an iron bar. There was no pain. She didn't feel a thing. And yet, I couldn't budge. Not unless she let me. That's the moment that it became evidently clear that this girl was anything but normal. She was one of them, a tech freak. But she didn't have any outward signs at all. By all appearances, she just looked like a regular girl. Just as normal and human as anyone. Even sort of cute and ditzy. But as she looked up at me with that smile on her face, like she didn't have a care in the world, all while holding that death grip on me, the truth of who I was really dealing with came to full bear. She wasn't a joke. She might be smiling, but she's dead serious. This might be a game to her, but it's not a game that she has any intention of losing. She's not afraid of me. In fact, I wouldn't put it past her to be the strongest one in this room. I'm not sure if I'd be able to take her even if I had Titan helping me, which meant that I was screwed. I couldn't do anything. Just stuck following along. After a few moments, she finally released my hand, and I slowly pulled it back, flexing it a bit to check if any of the bones were broken, but maintaining a focused glare on her. Oh, I'm sorry. Did I hurt your hand? Oh, I can do that sometimes. You know, being superhuman doesn't always mean it's good. If you're not careful, you can hurt someone. And that's just mean, isn't it? She said, putting her hands behind her back and tilting her head, smiling at me. Well, you're probably wondering what all this is about. Well, based on your messenger boys, it's got something to do with your grudge against biotech, right? We somehow stole your legacy or something like that? Well, you really did. I don't really blame you, but your forefathers weren't as nice as they really should have been to me. After all I did was invent nanotechnology, she said, starting to get an angry expression on her face. What? What are you talking about? Biotech invented nanotechnology. Not you. Uh, she said, extending her hand and waving a finger in my direction. You've been sadly misinformed. Biotech was simply the company I was working for when I developed nanotechnology. Over 100 years ago now. What? That's impossible, I replied, looking at her dumbfounded. Oh, it's very possible. Back then, in the dawn of nanotechnology, I was the one who first created it, at least any effective measure. It had, of course, been hypothesized about. People had made attempts, but I was the first one to create a functional nanite. And I did so while working for biotech, over 100 years ago. Back then, your grandfather was running the show, and I was working for the Advanced Biological Division of Biotech, and doing some side work for the Weapons Manufacturing Division. It was about that time that I made some radical advances in my research in nanite technology, producing the first nanite that could be functional in a practical sense, useful. It was still very basic, especially compared to what we have now, but it was the gateway. I had it all planned out. My nanites were going to rewrite humanity, eliminate illness, sickness, weakness, genetic flaws, physical deformity, old age, physical injury, meaningless. Nanites were invented to push humanity into the next level, to give us control of our evolution. It would have changed what it meant to be human. It was meant to, she said, still looking fairly angry. But when I brought the project to your grandfather, he told me that doing such would count as human experimentation, that it wasn't up to me to play God, that we could find a more practical use for nanite technology. And now look at it. 100 bastardized versions of my technology, running coffee makers, acting as hair dye, makeup for girls, children's play toys, the most radical advancement in human technology in centuries. And it's been reduced to a novelty. It's shameful. When I refused to back your grandfather's plans, he ousted me from the company, kicked me out on my ass, and claimed nanotechnology as his own, saying that biotech had the proprietary rights. All of the manufacturing, design, and implementation of its creation was all done under the biotech roof. That they owned it, not me. They used their power and influence to block all of my legal movements to take possession of my technology. They locked me out and called me mad when I claimed possession of it, ownership and right of the technology, and thus left me with nothing. I ended up out on the street. I couldn't even afford to eat. I ended up struggling just to survive, drinking myself into oblivion, having lost everything. And then something miraculous happened. I was visited by a stranger whilst I was drinking myself into unconsciousness in a dark alley covered in filth. It was a woman. I don't know who she was. Honestly, I don't know why she came, if for no other reason than to be my saving grace. She said that she understood me, my pain, my suffering, how I must feel having had everything taken away, all that I deserved in this world. And then she said that she could give me something, give me the power to take what I wanted, to reclaim the throne of one who created biotechnology in the truest sense by producing nanites. And there, covered in filth in an alley, the rain pouring down on top of me, a half-empty bottle of liquor in my hand. The woman placed on the ground in front of me a silver briefcase, and without another word, she left. She explained nothing, simply leaving the briefcase in my possession. At first, I thought it was nothing more than a final trap, that I'd open the briefcase and bang, that'd be it. To be honest, I hoped it was, that it would just put me out of my damn misery. But when I opened the case, what I found was not despair or death, but hope.